Hi everyone, and welcome to Real Talk on Racism. I am your host, Russ Terry, and I'm super excited to have you here today because we have an amazing guest. I'm here with Lisa Hurley, who does so many amazing things, and I can't wait for all of you to hear all of her great insights. Lisa, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here, and it's great to meet somebody that, you know, we connected on LinkedIn, and it's great to actually meet you in person. So few people are getting to do these days, right?
Yes, yes, and I appreciate you coming down here to Princeton to be in studio, and she's doing so many amazing things, so we're going to get right into it. Okay, so why is this topic, anti-racism, so important to you?
Well, I think that I've always been that person that kind of like rooted for the underdog, so to speak. And I grew up in Barbados, as you know, which is a former plantocracy. And I remember in high school seeing children, like the darker skinned children, all played outside in the fields. The lighter skinned and white children played or sat closer to the big house, closer to the hall. And so you could see in real time, the plantocratic structure was still in place. And so it never sat well with me, even back then as a high school kid. And so fast forward now to George Floyd and everything that happened a year and a half ago, and I think all of these thoughts, feelings, opinions about racism, colorism, texturism, all of that came to a head for me, like it did for so many other people. And I just felt like I can't be silent anymore. We are at too important of a juncture. It's been going on for too long. People are calling it another civil rights movement, but you know, how many have we had? How many do we need to have? And so it's important to me to contribute in some way to making a change and making the world better. It is probably not going to end in my lifetime, in our lifetime, but whatever I can do to push the needle forward so that the next generation has it a bit easier, that's what I want to do.
And it surprises me as a white person to hear that, because Kenrick Ross in our second episode, he said the same thing.
Really?
And you know, now you've said it, so this is a trend, 4 episodes into this show.
Yeah.
And my mom, who turns 78 this year, she is trying to be optimistic that things will change in her lifetime. Of course, she remembers, the prior civil rights movement from the 60s, because she was, a 20-ish person at the time, navigating that. What I am optimistic about is discussions like these hopefully will educate people, inspire people to do things differently, take action, etc. I know I've learned something already, and we're only a few minutes into the episode. So you said plantocracy, did I get that word right?
Plantocracy.
Yes, what does that mean?
So essentially a society built on a plantation society. That's what plantocracy is. So in other words, sugar plantations, it would have been the equivalent in the States would have been cotton plantations. So the setup of the, the white master and mistress of the house, and sort of white adjacent slaves who, as we all know, were essentially children that were the product of rape, unfortunately. And those would usually work closer to the big house or in the main house. And then, of course, the field slaves were usually dark in color and would work in the fields. And so that's how plantocracy was set up. And we see it still today. That is kind of how, if you look at racism and everything that we're fighting against, and you think about what I just said, it's structured exactly the same. And that's what we're pushing against.
Yeah. And, it's like, as a white person, I kind of know about some of these things, but you're informing me, and I imagine many others, in a lot more detail, which I very much appreciate. You're as you mentioned, we connected on LinkedIn, and her LinkedIn posts get so much engagement. It's really awesome. But I mean, you have something to say, and it's really great. And
thank you. I just decided again around the time of George Floyd. Actually, because it's George Floyd happened, the pandemic happened, and my year is actually of, you know, who could have predicted? But what happened actually in January of that same year is I lost my job. So I lost my job. The pandemic became a real thing. George Floyd happened, and so all of that was happening. And so initially, when I started, I was unemployed. Started writing more vociferously, shall we say, on LinkedIn. And I decided two things. One is, in some ways, I have nothing to lose right now because I don't have anyone to answer to. But of course, I'm aware that prospective employers are going to be looking at my profile. However, I decided that I am not code switching. I am not muting myself.
Code switching?
We will get to that.
Okay.
We will get to that.
I'm going to take copious notes here.
Copious notes. Yeah, so I am not going to code switch. I'm not going to mute myself or silence myself or dim my light or my voice in any way. I've had that done to me and for me, alas. And so this is the time, this is an opportunity to be as real and authentic and unambiguous and unapologetic as possible. And so I decided to look at it as an opportunity. And I was like, well, whoever hires me, please feel free to look at my profile and know who you are employing, because this is the person that I'm going to be.
Well, I appreciate you speaking up and speaking out and being your true self. In that LinkedIn post that you made, you said, people assume that you are deficient in some way. And I've heard that too about people of color in general. One white person said to me when we were talking about the diversity work that I do,
right,
well, how do you know they're qualified? And I was horrified, and I didn't know what to say when the person was saying that, but now I know what they're thinking because of what they said. So, you know, when you become aware that people are assuming you're deficient in some way, what effect does that have on you?
A multiplicity of effects, I would say, and it varies according to the day. On a good day, I can shake it off and fuel that. You use that their opinion as a fuel to just redirect my energy towards what I'm focused on. It does not serve me and my purpose to entertain the opinions of people who have no bearing on my long-term goals. And so I acknowledge, I see the opinion, I feel the energy, I feel the judgment. Sometimes you hear it outright. Somebody will literally say something to you outright that indicates that they think that you are, shall we say, lower down than them, that you're lesser than them. But I can shake it off. On not so good days, it absolutely has an effect, even to the point of, you know, it can make me feel a bit sad, a bit low, right? And you know, those days, it takes a little bit longer to recover. Then there are times where I frankly get angry, but I don't think anger is a bad thing. Anger is fuel. I use that anger and channel it to help myself become even more focused, more committed, more unapologetic, more outspoken. And it is not in terms of proving anything to the person that's judging me. Again, their opinion in some ways has no bearing on what I'm trying to achieve, but instead using it, like I said, to do even more, go even harder, and be more committed.
Well, it's understandable to be sad and low sometimes. It's understandable to be angry sometimes. So all of those are valid emotions based on the microaggressions or outright racism that you're experiencing. And I do agree with you that anger, if there's one benefit to it, it does motivate us to take action. Yeah. So what are some of the examples of racism that you have experienced at work?
How much time do we have?
I know. It's a 30-minute show.
How much time do we have? Oh my gosh.
At least one or two.
Yes. So I have had people ask me, where are you from? Which in itself, it sounds pretty innocuous. But the where are you from followed up by, no really, where are you really from? Because usually I pretend to not know what they're trying to ask, and I say, "Oh, I'm from Jersey," right? But we all know what is really meant, and there's a way in which it is asked that says, "You are other. I'm othering you. You are an outsider. You do not belong here. I am superior to you because of whatever they perceive themselves to be, and I just want to know which box to place you in." The box is definitely beneath me, but I want to know which of those boxes beneath me I need to place you in. So I've had that question asked. I've had people say, "Oh, you're so well spoken."
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
As if they're assuming that you're not going to be well spoken, and they're surprised that you're articulate.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I apologize on behalf of all white people who say that, because
it's the worst. It's the worst. And also, considering what I do, I am a writer by trade, a copywriter by trade, and so literally what I do is sort of play in the world of words all day, every day. Like why would I not be outspoken? I don't understand this. So I've had that, and it's gone from those microaggressions to, yes, there have been cases where I have actually, I have lost my job before as a result of racism. We don't have time to sort of delve into it fully, but that has definitely happened. So numerous examples.
And you have another thing in common with Kenrick Ross, our guest from episode 2, because he said the "where are you from" example also, and he says California, and they say, "No, where are you from?" And I think in some of those cases, the person saying it might be well-intentioned or might not be trying to be racist or commit a microaggression.
Exactly.
But hopefully, platforms like this show are educating people that saying something like, "Where are you from?" and then following up with, "No, where are you really from?" is racist.
Yeah, a lot of people, some people know exactly what they're doing and saying, but I agree with you that a lot of people have no idea that the question is problematic. The question and then the follow-up insistence is problematic.
Yeah, especially the follow-up insistence.
The follow-up insistence, right.
Yeah, so for our viewers who are watching this today that, gosh, may meet someone and be curious about where that individual is from, what's your recommendation on what they should or shouldn't say or do?
The thing is that you're not entitled, we are not entitled to people's full background and biography.
As soon as we meet them.
As soon as we meet them, you're not entitled to that. I mean, small talk is fine, right? But there are ways to do it without sort of stepping on the toes of people with whom you're interacting. And so now, again, shows like this are helping to educate people. So now, you guys know. So this is a question that you potentially want to leave until a little bit later on in your interaction with somebody. Maybe if it's somebody that you're meeting for the first time, you actually don't have to know where they're from. You really don't. Or if you are speaking to somebody who is a minoritized person, someone from the global majority, be cognizant that, hey, if I ask this question that I think is innocuous to me, it might not land this way on them. So just ask another question. You do not need their entire biography.
Yeah.
You don't.
And I fully take responsibility that I have been guilty of this question. I mean, even when you walked in today, I said it. And
here's the thing.
Okay.
Again, and that's why I said wait until you are further on in your interactions with someone. Now, you asked me that, and I had zero reaction. We had a good interaction over it, actually. And you told me, oh, I have a friend in Barbados, and we had a good time. That's fine, because guess what? We've known each other. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we've known each other for, I think, a few months now. We have interacted, and every interaction, sometimes it's just us interacting. It's not transactional. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's not, hey, Lisa, I need something or the other from you. So there is a basis for a friendship and a relationship that gives us both permission to go beyond and ask certain questions. So yeah, you're entitled, you can ask me that now. Now, had it been when we first connected, hey, Lisa,
thanks for accepting my
request. Where are you from? No, absolutely not.
Okay, good. And
does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And I do have an example where I was more guilty. It was a business meeting. I was off-site in a different state facilitating a session.
Right.
And the director of the company, one of the leaders, she happened to be sitting next to me. I noticed her accent. It was before the meeting started, I think, but most people were there and ready. And
right.
I picked up an accent, noticed an accent. I said, where are you from? And she went off on me, understandably
really?
so.
Oh, wow.
But she's like, I want to know your sexual orientation. I want to know if you're married or single, if you have kids.
Wow. So when she asked you those questions, did you get it?
I did get it. I was like, I need to keep my mouth shut and mind my P's and Q's, because apparently that's not a good question to ask. So I learned a lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
And I think, it's almost like some of us, especially those of us who are white and privileged, we lead this charmed life where everything is like a Saturday night cocktail party where we can ask whatever's on our mind, not realizing that it can be a microaggression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well.
But here's the thing I want to say to you is, first of all, thank you for what you're doing here. And thank you for being teachable.
Thank you.
Right? Because that is half the battle. You are one of the people that I've noticed that you have been learning, but you've taken these, whatever you've learned, whether it is recently or throughout your life experience, and now you're doing the work. Here we are, right? And putting action behind what you've learned. And so that absolutely counts for a lot. I mean, all of us are on a learning journey, right? I am as well. There's so much that I have learned just in the past year and a half, but the key is to know that you have things to learn, to have an open mind and be teachable.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I'm grateful to you for saying that.
welcome.
I really appreciate it. Warms my heart, makes my day.
You're welcome.
So one of your many areas of expertise on this topic specifically is racism based on hair, hair texture, etc. So for our viewers watching today, what are important things in that specific area for them to know?
Okay, the black hair and black hair texture issue is a big one, and I believe our hair texture is the only one that seems to require legislation in order. I don't know if you're aware of this. In order for us to be able to wear our hair in the way that it grows out of our scalps. Are you familiar with the Crown Act?
No.
Okay, there's the Crown Act here in the US, and there's the Halo Code in the United Kingdom. The Crown Act is basically a push for legislation to basically legalize black hair and black hairstyles, because so many of us have experienced situations where we have been sent home from work because of how our hair is styled. Actually, I think 80% of black women, one third of black women have been sent home from work because of how their hair is styled.
And this is to assume that they wore their hair natural that day?
Either natural or in something that culturally significant, whether braids, locks, bantu knots, one of those styles that are typically from our culture, culturally significant. And yes, I've been sent home. And then 80% of black women have changed their hair, code switched their hair.
Oh,
There's
code
that word
switch.
again.
Okay.
There's that word again. Code switch their hair in order to fit in with societal norms. Societal norms being fitting in with essentially white standards of beauty.
And I have heard that piece where one of my best friends was a black woman was contemplating how to have her hair for a job interview. Should she have the braids in?
Yeah.
Should she have it pulled back in a conservative bun, with no braids?
Yeah.
And apparently this is something real that
huge.
people of color have to think about before they go on a job interview or start their new job or whatever.
It's huge and it's exhausting because the amount of thought that you spend thinking about, will my hair be accepted? Will my hair prevent me from getting a job? Or will it, if I have a job, will it prevent me from being promoted? Will it, prevent me from, it basically has the potential to affect your income and your livelihood. Literally how your hair grows or how you choose to style it.
That sounds so exhausting and stressful.
It is, and you have to put so much thought into it, as opposed to thinking about ideas and concepts and pushing the needle forward at work and contributing to society. No, you have to spend time thinking about, will this probably majority white company that I work in, will these people that I'm working with accept my hair as it is? Will they accept me as I am? Or will I have to code switch? Which we brought up a couple of times. So I've mentioned code switching here. So for example, many black people, not all, but many black people have naturally curly, kinky, coily hair. A lot of them, a lot of us, including myself in that number, straighten our hair, right? In order to be more accepted. And you tying back to a question you asked earlier about microaggressions and incidences of racism at work. A slight one is, let's say I wear my hair curly most of the time, and then one day I decide, okay, I'm going to straighten it today, and then all of a sudden everyone, white, says, oh, I love your hair like this. It looks so much better this way. Yeah, I've heard it. Ask probably almost any black woman or woman of color, and they have heard it too, right? And so you know that you're being judged. Whether you may or may not choose to conform or change how you show up, but you know that the judgment is taking place. Another form of code switching, for example, is, I was just speaking to a friend of mine who is originally from Liberia, but to hear him speak, he sounds 100% American. He was telling me he just decided one day it just is easier to not get teased, not get judged, not get asked, where are you from? No, really, where are you from? Not get asked those questions all the time, and he just code switched his accent permanently.
So code switching, if I can paraphrase to make sure I'm understanding this, means that people of color have to change who they are or the way that they do things to conform to the societal norms, the way the white people do it, etc.
Yes. And again, it can be sartorially in terms of how you choose to dress. So for example, am I going to wear a conservative suit? Or am I going to wear kente cloth and a head wrap, or somewhere in between? But those choices make a difference. Those choices make a difference, and they affect your promotability. So it can be sartorially, it can be in terms, like we mentioned just now, of your one's accent and how you choose what accent you choose to use. It can be, am I going to bring my traditional dishes to work? Right? Or am I just going to, I don't know, go to the neighborhood Subway and just pretend that that's what I really like, and then only eat the food that is from my country or from where I'm from, only eat my traditional foods when I'm at home. So that, again, you don't get asked all those questions, or you don't get judged and told, oh, that smells weird, that looks weird, what is that? Right? So many ways of code switching.
So one of the themes from today's show might be, gosh, for people that are not a person of color, you don't have to say everything that's on your mind.
Oh my gosh, yes. That is something that I wrote in one of my posts about hair. and black hair textures, and people asking you intrusive questions about your hair, touching your hair without permission. It is a real thing. It happens all the time. It happened to me, I think it might have been a couple of years ago. I was sitting outside of Bryant Park, and a woman literally just came up to me, a stranger, and put her hands in my hair.
That's awful.
It is. I was in a good space that day, and I gently removed her hands from my hair, and I said, "Beloved," I said, "do you understand that you can't do that, that you cannot just go up to a stranger and put your hands in their hair?" And she said, "Oh, but it's so lovely." I'm like, "Your hair's lovely too, but I've not touched it." Right? So you don't need to do everything that you think, and you don't need to say everything that is on your mind. You don't, even if you're curious about a black person's or a person of color's place of origin, how they've styled their hair, that fabric that they're wearing, whatever it happens to be, you actually don't need to know. And they're not obligated to tell you. And you are going to survive having your curiosity unanswered. You will survive that.
You will survive.
You will survive.
Having your curiosity unanswered.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, the grace that you have to handle a situation like that, I can't even imagine. So I give you so much credit.
Thank you.
So we've talked a lot about some of the challenges that people of color experience, and obviously there are countless examples. But what are some good, newer things that are happening that give you hope that we as an American society are trending upward and becoming more anti-racist?
Well, just that we as a society are becoming, I think, bit by bit, we're becoming more anti-racist. It is slow. It is slower than I would like, but I see people, there are many allies that I'm connected to on LinkedIn and other places, and I see people doing the work. So many of them, and being unafraid, being unapologetic, and speaking directly to their community. And saying, one white person saying to another or to several others, hey folks, we need to rethink this. We need to rethink this. We need to rethink these approaches. We need to rethink these questions and statements. We need to rethink our language choices. We need to rethink our behaviors. We need to rethink allyship. What is it really, and are we doing it correctly? And so having white allies really step up, I'm seeing more and more of it, and that makes me happy. And it makes me happy for many reasons, but one of the main ones is that black and brown people are tired.
Understandably
We're exhausted.
So.
We are exhausted. It is an ongoing struggle. This activism work and anti-racism work is necessary, but it is not for the faint of heart. And so having someone else take a little bit of that burden, do some of the education, is very, very helpful. And so that gives me hope.
Well, I'm here as one of your allies.
I know, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate you. I do.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I'm on the mission, and I promise I'm not going to stop until we reduce and hopefully eventually eradicate racism.
Amen to that.
Excellent.
Amen to that.
Good. Okay, so you mentioned a second ago doing the work, and one of the themes from some of our prior episodes was learning. That our prior guests recommended that people watching this who want to learn go out and actually learn.
Yes.
So what are one or two good ways that our viewers can learn more about not just racism, but how to consciously be anti-racist?
I want to answer that question in two parts.
Go for it.
Kind of. Okay. So learning needs to happen and has been happening, is happening right now. However, I do feel that people learn about what they want to learn about. And so let's say if someone is planning a vacation that they're very excited about, and they go onto Google and they pull up articles and reviews, and they put in the work to find out about this new place that they're potentially going to travel to, right? And so I think I want a bit more of that. I want a bit more of people putting in some more of their own effort, as opposed to defaulting to asking just the nearest black person or their one black friend that they happen to have. It is not that person's burden to educate you, because we're in the age of the internet, and there's so much out there. So I do want to say, yes, learn, absolutely. Watch shows like this one. Follow people of color on LinkedIn and other social media platforms, Instagram and so on. There's so much out there. There's a good one called No White Saviors. There is, I think it's called End Racism Daily, don't quote me on that one, but there are a lot of good accounts on Instagram that are really doing the work that is, it's easy for people to follow. However, having learned, we've all been learning for the past year and a half. At what point are you going to put it into action? Which is why I said to you earlier in the show, I applaud what you're doing, because yes, you've been learning, but here we are. This I consider you doing part of the work, right? This is important. And so, how much time exactly do people need to process, right? How much processing and sitting with it are you going to do? So learn, but then act. You know, that is absolutely a requirement. It's like an exam, like a chemistry or a biology exam. There's the theory, but then there's a practical. So please continue to learn, but then move towards the practical. So intervene when you see some racist behavior taking place, whether at work or if it is safe out, you know, on the street or whatever. Not asking you to necessarily put yourself in harm's way, but intervene and intercede if you can, right? Focus on especially protecting black women in particular. We feel very unprotected, like if we are the last people on everybody's list, but we're out there doing the work and doing the heavy lifting. So do what you can to make our lives easier in any possible way. And I'm not talking about white saviorhood. I'm talking about just simply do the right thing, be a good human being. So that kind of thing is what I would like to see.
Well, these are all excellent points, and you're not last on my list. You're number one on my list.
Am I number one?
My new FNF.
I better be.
Favorite new friend. Your energy is amazing, and you're positive, and you exude this happiness, despite all of the many examples that you've shared of the things that have happened to you, around you, etc.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I try. My Instagram name is actually Happy Phoenix, and someone asked me once, they were like, that is a very specific handle, like what's the reason for it? And I said, it's for me, it's almost like a mantra, right? No, you're not going to be happy 24/7, but it is a goal. It is a goal. So, you know, the happy is I don't just want happiness, I want double the happiness. I want more happiness for myself and everyone else. And the Phoenix, of course, is, you know, there will be difficulties, but you can rise from them. You can transmute and move on and be better and stronger.
Well,
so that's the goal, always.
I love it. Well said. Something that you said a second ago about, you know, how black women have been doing the work. There's this phrase I've been using in the last year or two called inclusion exhaustion. So all of the people of color who have had to fight this fight and educate their well-intentioned coworkers and friends on, you know, here's racism 101 and all of that stuff. So I think she makes a really great point that, okay, we've learned enough the last year and a half. Now is the time to take action because people of color are exhausted from the fight. Yeah.
And we're going to continue, but we just want to see a little effort.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm here to act.
You are making the effort.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are making the effort.
Thank you. So you've shared so many amazing things on the show today. What final thoughts do you have for our viewers?
Final thoughts for our viewers. That is a good one. I would say, please, I have to reiterate about doing the work. I have to thank I can't thank everyone individually, but all my white allies, my friends on LinkedIn and other places who are white allies, I want to thank you for what you're doing. Don't stop. Please continue what you're doing. And remember that this is ongoing. This is ongoing. So in the same way that so many people of color are exhausted and uncomfortable, you too might become exhausted and uncomfortable, but that is okay. Push through. Push through. Don't give in. Don't give in to the exhaustion. I'm speaking now directly to allies, right? Don't use your privilege to say, "Oh, I've had enough. I need a break." People like myself are not getting a break, so we need you there in the trenches with us 24/7. The other thing I want to say is to my fellow activists, please rest. Please rest. Prioritize rest. It is so important. We cannot do this and live in this space 24/7. Whether it is resting in terms of actual napping, which I highly recommend.
Me too.
Naps are one of my favorite things
Me too.
in the world, right? Or, just taking 5 minutes for a nature walk, a walk around the block, meditation, something to center yourself, some form of self-care. Something that I do on my social medias. I got so tired of being in battle mode and fighting censorship and everything, and I just decided one day, you know what, I'm just going to do affirmations from now on. I'm going to do positive affirmations on my on my Instagram and on my TikTok, and those are my personal safe spaces that hopefully will not attract trolls, and it'll just be a nice, happy, love and light, good vibrations, and that is part of my self-care. And so again, activists out there, I see you, I appreciate you. Please prioritize self-care and give yourself permission to rest.
Well said. I can't think of better advice for anybody watching today. Our time is almost up.
No.
Lisa Hurley has been our guest today on Real Talk with Racism.
Thank you.
You are amazing and fantastic. I'm so grateful for having you here. Thank you so much for all the wisdom you've shared.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great to be here.
You're welcome. All right, and thank you, all of you, for watching us. Again, I'm Russ Terry. We will see you next time here on Real Talk on Racism.